6 o'clock, you guys ready? Hey, Ellen. Are we ready? Everybody set? Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the January 5th, 2021 Temple Terrace City Council meeting. And Happy New Year to everybody. If you would, please stand with me, and we'll have the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Lord, we enter into this new year with both gratitude and hope. We are grateful for the gifts of freedom, family, community, and love. Help us all to use these gifts wisely and always for the betterment of those less fortunate than us. We are hopeful for the opportunities that lie ahead. Give us wisdom to make decisions that advance the common good and make our city a healthy and prosperous community for all. We pray in a special way tonight for our city manager, Charles Stevenson, and his family as he mourns the death of his mother, Nellie Ehlers. Give him comfort in his time of sorrow and protection as he travels. Help him feel the support of those around him as we keep him in our prayers. Although we are of different creeds, we are all your children, and we offer our prayer to you as one people. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to remind us, as much as the people in the gallery, to please silence your electronic devices. And let me make sure that I've done so. I have. Okay. First item on the agenda is a presentation of the Pavement Management Project. It's a 5-year capital improvement project. The presentation will be conducted by Public Works Director of Utilities, Troy Tinch. Welcome, Mr. Tinch. Happy New Year.
Thank you, sir. Happy New Year to all of yourself and the council members. If you don't mind, I'm going to remove my mask. Again, my name is Troy Tinch. I'm the Public Works Utilities Director, and I'm here this evening to present the 5-year roadway capital improvement plan. As with the plan, the waste water management plan, phase 1 that I presented a couple of meetings back, I'll be presenting the plan tonight to allow you to answer any questions you may have at this time, then take it home, digest it a bit, read through it, evaluate all the different roadway options that we're looking at, come back with any questions during that time frame, and at a point in the near future, bring it forward again for approval via a resolution. So that said, we'll go ahead and get started with the plan itself. The idea of this this purpose of this plan is to basically assess all of our roadway inventory and make a determination what we can do to kind of keep it healthy, keep that longevity going. And so pavement management, by its simple definition, is simply that. It's maintaining, it's repairing that system so that you get the most longevity out of your roadway system. And that is, by definition, the intent of what we're attempting to do with the pavement management plan. So we start off by conducting an inventory. We look at all of our roadway system. We then assess a condition to that those roadways. And we use what they consider, or what they call, the Pavement Condition Index. That's an industry standard and industry term. It's a scale, it's based on a scale of 0 to 100. And it's utilized to assess the condition of the actual asphalt. And 0 being failure, 100 being excellent condition or brand new. So you use that, you assess that, we then analyze that data. And from that data, from that analysis, we then conduct or complete the plan, which is why I'm here this evening. So quick look at our roadway inventory. We have approximately 84 centerline miles of roadway, comprising about 9.5 million square feet of asphalt. And our average PCI rating for the entire network is 71, which falls in the good range. It's at the bottom end of the good range, but it still falls within the good range. So as you can see from the aerial on the right-hand side of the screen, there are a number of blues and greens on the screen. Those are all good condition, excellent condition roadway systems. But what you also notice is that there are a number of fair and just a few poor condition roadways. So we obviously have some good condition roadways, but we also have some roadways that we need to really work on. So to make that assessment, if you were to take all of those roadways that were below excellent, so everything within our roadway system, and you wanted to bring everything up to an excellent value, you'd be looking at spending just shy of $7 million. Well, we all know that that's not economically feasible. So we developed this plan and a process by which we can improve our roadway system or continue to maintain it at a level that we deem to be acceptable. And one of the ways that we do that is by, again, utilizing that PCI. And I purposely included the PCI curve that's located again on the right-hand side of the screen. And I will talk a little bit about that, explain what that is. That's your condition inventories. So you have everything on the y-axis indicates the condition, 0 to 100. The x-axis, those are the number of years. And what you see, the engineers have determined over time is that those first, say, 10, 15, even 16, 17 years, your roadway stays in pretty good condition. It's after that time period that you see a significant drop-off in that condition. And within 2 to 3 years, it can go from a fairly decent condition roadway to a failure. So it's important to try and catch that on that curve before it really starts to fall off that curve, because for every dollar you spend while you're still on the top end of the curve, you're saving yourself about $6 to $10 if you wait till it bottoms out or gets more towards the failure point. And again, that can happen in a very short time period. So it's incumbent on myself to make sure that we come up with a plan that kind of helps keep everything up in that upper range, because that's really your sweet spot. That's where you're going to spend the least amount of money to keep your system in an ideal condition. I spoke a little earlier about our average PCI rating for the city being 71. So what does a 71 roadway look like? Well, it looks just like Overlook Drive. This is located just west of the downtown redevelopment area. This is looking north down Overlook towards Bush Boulevard. And you can see there's some longitudinal cracking in there, but there's no major structural defects. There are no potholes. You don't see raveling. You don't see defects in the asphalt. Fairly smooth roadway system. So 71, again, it's at the bottom end of the good range, but it's still considered good. So 71 is not a bad place for the city to be overall. That said, again, you can see from a breakdown of the actual mileage, the lane miles. So centerline miles are center of the roadway. Lane miles, you have generally 2 lanes for each, so you basically double what our centerline miles are. And what you see is we have about 58% of our roadway system that's in good to excellent condition. But we also have about 42% of our roadway system that's in fair to poor condition. So we have a little bit of work to do, and the intent again is to get some of those fair roads more towards the good side. Obviously, as you resurface them, they'll go to the excellent and then work their way down. But the object is get most of your roadways within that good segment, and then your average carrying costs, if you will, to keep those in that area is much lower. So we developed a 5-year plan, and this is a recommended plan. And what we have budgeted for this year, fiscal year, is $650,000. Next year, $650,000, then $700,000 to kind of account for some increases in costs. And we figure within this 5-year plan, we can resurface or rehabilitate about 17 miles of our roadway system, which is only 20%. And if you do the math, obviously 20% every 5 years means it's going to take you 25 years to completely do your entire roadway system. So you really want to kind of shrink that window, and we'll be talking about budgeting a little bit later. And ideally what we want to do is be completing, say, 25 to 30% of our roadway system every 5 years to kind of push that down into that 15-year range. And then once you kind of get into that, now you ultimately can see yourself spending maybe less money on some of the resurfacing efforts. So what does the plan itself look like? Here, we have an aerial base here, a roadway map that shows all the different years are color-coded, years 1 through 5. As you can see, they're kind of intermittently strewn throughout the city, through the central and southern portions of the city. Year one, it will consist of mainly major rehabilitation. We've got some roads out there that year one we really want to tackle and take care of to the FDR, full depth reclamation, and your standard mill and overlay, that 2 inches of mill and then 2 inches of brand new asphalt surface overlaid on top of that. Those are some of your less cost effective measures, but unfortunately the roads in these areas have gotten to the point where they really need to be significantly increased. And I think I've talked to FDR a little bit about that, a full depth reclamation. They grind that upper 8 inches of asphalt and base, mix some emulsion in there, put it back down, and then they'll put a driving surface on top of that. So you can imagine that's a little more costly than just simply milling off the upper 1.5 to 2 inches and putting down new asphalt.
Before you move
Yes,
on,
sir.
can you clarify, go
Yes,
back. Can you clarify for everybody, when you say FY '21 here, year one, is that 2021, the year we're in now? Or is that 21-22, the year we're gonna be in October?
It's the fiscal year we are currently in,
Okay.
fiscal year
So
21.
this money's already been budgeted.
Yes, sir,
Okay, thank you.
it has. So here's a kind of a blow up of where those roadways are located, proposed to be located throughout the city. Give you guys an opportunity to kind of, whenever you go back through this plan and look at it, let you know where we are, which roadways we're identifying. Here's a couple representative roads within that segment that we're proposing in FY '21, this fiscal year. You've got a mill and overlay on Nantucket and then a full depth reclamation on Brentwood. So kind of gives you an idea of, you saw what 71 looks like, now you can see what something probably more in the 50 range looks like. Year two, again, we'll be doing some major rehabilitation. We're also going to scatter in a smattering of maintenance efforts of preservation. What you're going to see from this is the dollar goes a lot farther with those preservation efforts, that double micro and some of the other type of minor resurfacing efforts. It goes a lot longer. You're looking at about $200,000 per mile for FDR, probably about 125 for mill and overlay. When you start talking about preservation, now you're down in 25,000 to 30. So it really, really extends it, and you see that from the number of roadways. We went from 7 roads to several dozen. Again, here's the year two plan, a blow up of that where we'll be looking to do work within. And some representative roadways within that system. Again, you can kind of see those FDR roads are generally in a little bit worse condition. Then you have your mill and overlay, and then you have your double micro. And as you can see from that double micro, that road's in pretty good condition. And what you do by adding that double micro is you add probably 8 to 10 years of life to that roadway. So that's where, again, talking on that curve, we're up here now. We want to keep it up there. Let's keep bumping it along. And as you can see, those dollars, they go much farther than the major restoration efforts. So ideally, we want to be in that realm at some point in the future. Year three, again, we're doing some rehab as well as a smattering of preservation projects. And again, you'll notice by the number of roadways that are included compared to year one. Again, there's a bit of a close-up of that particular year. And representative roadways. Again, some FDR, some double micro. These really kind of side by side give you that good indication of what a decent PCI rating on a roadway versus one that really is in poor condition. Again, with year four, we are focusing on some major rehabilitation projects, and there's a reason why that is. If you notice, we are starting out of the gate with some major rehabilitation projects and then sliding into some major rehab with a smattering of preservation. Well, these roadways that we're identifying here, a lot of these have other conditions that need to be addressed before the roadways can be resurfaced. We obviously don't want to put a new roadway surface down and then go back a year or two later and pull it up because we will need to fix the sewer line, gravity sewer system. So these are areas that we've identified issues with leaking manholes and sewer line issues where you've got some small dips or depressions in the roadway that need to be addressed, then we'll go back in. So we have 2 or 3 years to get to that point. We'll be ready to go and go in and resurface the roadway. And again, here's the a close-up of that particular year. And once again, here's a couple of representative roadway sections within that segment. And then finally, year 5, again, major rehab. The identified roads really have a lot of underlying conditions that need to be addressed first. So we push those out to address those over the next couple of years through capital projects. And there's a bit of a close-up of that year 5, fiscal year 5. And once again, some representative roadways. So path forward, we'll continue with our routine inspections, evaluate the needs for annual maintenance, and keep records of all the improvements that we make to our system. That's really important because once those roadways are redone or resurfaced, they then go from that low PCI rating to that upper PCI rating. So whenever we reassess our system every 5 years, we have an idea of kind of holistically how we're improving the system, how that's looking. And so it's important that we keep those records. We know when it was resurfaced. We know what resurfacing effort was undertaken. So it would be important for us to keep those records. So I know I spoke a little bit about this when I started my presentation about the budgeting. So right now we're looking at spending about $650,000 to $700,000 annually. If we continue on that cost, that budget line item, you can see from the blue line, we're pretty flat. We're not really going to increase our PCI rate. We're not going to really decrease our PCI rate. We're just going to kind of maintain. If we want to try and bump that up off the 70 to 71 range, we're going to need to add a little more money to the budgeting process. So 750, you can see what that does. That slowly starts to lift that PCI rate over the next few years. And of course, $1 million annually, that significantly starts to push that up so that you get that back up to the 75, even 80 PCI rate. And once you're up in that range, then again, what you'll find is you may actually see some slight tailing off of costs because your restoration efforts are much cheaper. So with that, that's really the completion of the 5-year CIP roadway plan. I'll stand for any questions, if any.
Council member, questions, Mr. Sischler?
Good presentation, Troy.
Thank you.
Question though. Okay, I need to study this further, but in year 1, are all the yellows addressed?
No, they are not all addressed. We can.
Yeah, I kind of had, that was going to be my question as well.
And I want to make sure that there is an equal focus north of Bullard, south of Bullard as well as north of Bullard.
Yeah, we tried.
There's some places that we just got done doing within the last 2 years. Over off the golf course, up between 10 and 18 in those side streets.
Yes.
Bannockburn, I think, was one of them, and then curved down around by 18. I was looking for that. I believe that's only purple here, or light blue. Anyway, but I need to look at that further.
Absolutely.
But I hoped that in year 1 we've addressed at least all of the yellows, because I know it may lower the PCI, but it eating up cars and everything else, and our citizenry have to travel on that on a daily basis. So I would hope to see us do that. And one in particular, I can't remember which year it was in, was East River Drive. That, I believe, had an underlying issue with the water level problems.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, that's also an area where we have some sewer line issues, gravity sewer line issues as well.
How are we going to address that at the same time, or delay East River? I can't remember. Again, I don't know where East River was, what year East River was in.
Yeah.
It looks like year 2, so it'll be 22, 21, 22 the next year.
So are you speaking of the issues with groundwater or with the sewer lines? Okay, so groundwater is a little trickier.
whole thing. It's
Yeah.
hard to explain.
Uh,
The roads are terrible.
Yeah.
What, you know, and I go down on East River a lot and I see it, and it's hard to explain. Well, it's three different issues.
Mhm.
Yeah, but
So there are a couple things you could do to address the groundwater issue, and none of them are particularly cost efficient, because it would involve putting in under drain, and an under drain is simply a slotted pipe that you put in adjacent to the roadway at a given depth that allows the groundwater to soak into it and then carries that groundwater out of the system. So you have to have positive flow is the other thing. You could go back and reconstruct the roadway, and you could put a different type of base down that would help with base failure, which then is reflected up through to the surface.
instead of using limestone, use crushed concrete.
That's correct. That's correct. Or the FDR works pretty well in those environments. And so that's probably an area we'd be looking to utilize that type of
I don't
methodology.
expect you to answer those.
Oh, okay.
But in your plans and in your thought process for the next time we get together on this, I would like to see the yellows addressed more evenly or more thoroughly in the first go around.
Okay,
It would do two things: fix bad roads, and two, would elevate your PCI.
right. Yeah, we are addressing one of those in year one this year, but we could certainly look at addressing more.
Other questions?
Yeah,
Vice Mayor?
my question would be, how did you choose? Obviously, you took the amount of money you've been given and said, this is what we can do, right?
Well, the nice thing about using the PCI, it's a scientific methodology. So generally it's worst to first. So worst roadways, all the way up to your best roadways. Now, again, there are some roadways that are in pretty bad condition that we elected to maybe push off to a year or two from now. But we could certainly look at addressing that, but that's the whole idea. What this also does is it keeps you from getting into a scenario where someone says, you're only worried about paving in one specific location. And that's not the case, because we looked at this through scientific methodology. And there was no input, very little input from us as a general observer. The science digested the information and the engineering kicked out the answer. And so that's basically how we came up with the plan.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good.
Presentation.
Other questions?
Appreciate it.
Very
Thank
good.
Yep.
But just keep in mind, everybody should keep in mind that there's a lot of question marks regarding next year's funding, particularly when it comes to transportation. So there's a lot of competing, and at budget time, you know, we look at sewer pipes and drain lines and pavement and, you know, everything, it's always a balancing act. So just to remind everybody of that, so.
And we can adjust accordingly. If, for instance, we come back and say next year we can only afford 500,000 or 450 or 400, we would adjust accordingly.
Right.
Something else to keep in mind, that we have some supplemental funds that we've been utilizing for roadways within the city. And those are the CDBG funds, and we utilize those for roadway resurfacing. And those have to be utilized in the CDBG regions of the city, but they're fairly extensive. So that kind of augments this as well. And then there's the penny, which I hesitate to even mention because it is still in litigation.
One of the question marks.
And it's still in litigation, and we actually, it was discussed just yesterday in a meeting that I sat in with the county, and there's been no movement. The Supreme Court has still not made any movement on finalizing their determination if it's a allowable tax. Tax dollars are still being collected. They're still going into our coffers. So
Well,
whether or not we were able to utilize those dollars in the future is,
yeah, they're not exactly going into our coffers, but
well, they're going into an account, I guess, under our name.
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Troy.
Thank you.
Next item of business is an appointment to the Municipal Code Enforcement Board. There's one vacancy on the MCEB for a term extending from January 5th, tonight, until January 5th of 2024. City received one application from Rod Kawaja, who I believe is here this evening. Mr. Kawaja, would you like to say anything to the council? You're the only applicant. I think your odds are pretty good here.
Well, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Matt Kawaja, 10911 Montrose Avenue. I would like to wish everybody a Happy New Year, and I'm very honored to have this opportunity to serve the the Code Enforcement Board and to get to also serve all the citizens and all the residents of City of Terrace. So I'm very honored. I wish you all a good new year, and hopefully everybody will get over this pandemic, and we have a better year than last year.
Heading that way. Thank you, Mr. Kawaja.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Your-
the time.
Thank you.
Chairman of the Code Board's here. Anything to add?
Hi, David.
David Fagor, Chairman of the Code Board. I'd just like to add that I do know Rod, and he'd be a welcome addition to our Code Board. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the appointment of Rod Kawaja as a member of the Code Board for a term extending from tonight till January 5th, 2024?
I move to approve. Go ahead.
Okay, well, who moved?
We'll toss.
Okay,
Table approved.
Councilmember Abel, seconded by Vice Mayor Donahue. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No nays? Thank you for your service, sir. Mr. Begorlich, thank you for being here as well. Next item is the approval of the minutes of the December 15th City Council meeting.
To approve.
Second. We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion or comments, corrections to the minutes? If not, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No nays. The minutes are approved. Next section is the three persons wishing to be heard on items not listed on the agenda or items on the consent agenda. 3-minute time limit is imposed on all public comment. We do ask that speakers come to the podium and begin by stating their name and city of residence. We'd also like to assure everybody that your comments are taken seriously and are followed up on. I have no request to speak. Is there anybody in the gallery who'd like to comment on anything not on the agenda? Going once? This a false start, or is he gonna?
I know, he's cleaning off the,
Oh, okay, all right, very good. Nope. Okay, sold to nobody speaking. Next item on the agenda is a resolution approving the 2021 interlocal agreement for distribution of enhanced 911 emergency telephone service fee revenues. Police Chief, Acting City Manager, Ken Albano will explain.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Ken Albano, your Police Chief. Before you this evening for your consideration and action is a resolution approving the fiscal year 2021 interlocal agreement with Hillsborough County regarding the annual distribution of enhanced 911 emergency telephone service fee revenues. The Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners approved the attached interlocal agreement whereby $122,015 of the overall budgeted appropriations from the enhanced 911 emergency telephone service fee funds may be dispersed to the City of Temple Terrace. These funds may only be used by the city for salaries, education, and training of 911 call takers and other authorized expenses as described in Florida Statute 365.172 subsection 10. In compliance with the aforementioned statute and upon receiving City Council's approval, $62,100 shall be placed into account number 001-1440-521.1211 to be used for authorized 911 call takers' salaries, and $59,915 will be placed into general fund restricted account number 001-0000-281.00-00 subsection 911 and be used as for permissible in accordance with 911 related cost. It's recommended that City Council adopt a resolution approving this interlocal agreement and its intended use as previously described. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? If not, council member questions for Chief Albano? Any questions? Seeing none, if acceptable, I entertain a motion approving the interlocal agreement for distribution of the 911 funds.
Move to approve the 2020-21 interlocal agreement for distribution of enhanced 911 funds.
Motion, is there a second?
second.
Motion and a second by Councilmember Chambers. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No nays. Thank you, Chief. Motion passes. Any carryover council business from previous meetings? Okay. Any new business or board reports? Nothing. Okay.
Holidays pretty much kept us all from,
They did. This is, yep, very good. Okay, next item on the agenda are the appointments to various committees and boards. Each year, the mayor is responsible for appointing city council members to serve as representatives of the city on various Hillsborough County boards and state committees. I tried, this is difficult to do because we can't talk outside of meetings, so it's very hard for me to have a conversation with each of you to say, you know, and I think it's very important to try to get each of you in the places that you'd like to serve and also in the places where your background brings some expertise to these issues. So I did the best I could. There aren't sweeping changes. There are a few because we have a new composition of the council change, so that would stand, and being vice mayor now, there's a little different too. So do I need to read this whole list?
No, you don't need to read the whole list. It should have been, if it was attached to the agenda and it's available as
It was in the agenda, correct?
right, the public can't see it, so you should probably
Okay,
read it.
then in that case, probably just reading out who's going to be serving
Yes.
on which
Would you
committee
please-
would be good.
Please read that, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Ross's slate of appointments is as follows. Metropolitan Planning Organization, Mayor Andy Ross. Temple, actually, these are his appointments for himself. Metropolitan Planning Organization, Tampa Hillsborough Economic Development Corporation, Council of Governments, Florida League of Cities, Florida League of Mayors, Cultural Assets Commission, Tourist Development Council, Police Pension Board ex officio, and Fire Pension Board ex officio. The appointments for Vice Mayor Sherry Donahue are Metropolitan Planning Organization alternate, Suncoast League of Cities, Council of Governments, Tampa Innovation Partnership. Councilmember James Chambers' appointments are Board of Adjustment, Library Board, Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council, Municipal Code Enforcement Board. Councilmember Gil Schisler's appointments are Hillsborough County Regional Transit Authority, School Support Committee, Temple Terrace Audit Committee, Career Source, and Temple Terrace Golf and Country Club Strategic Action Committee. And Councilmember Meredith Abel, her appointments are Affordable Housing Advisory Board, Hillsborough River Interlocal Planning Board, and the River Watch Task Force.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Prior to a motion, are there any, I'm trying to do this the best way that I can. Is there any heartburn or, I don't want to ram this down anybody's throat if there's something that you can't do or don't want to do or something.
No,
Okay.
I did reach out to the Affordable Housing Advisory Board to ask them, because we have a meeting Monday.
I see.
So I will serve Monday, and then once the letter goes, it goes to the Board of County Commissioners to appoint Ms. Abel. So I'll finish my duty as of Monday, and then she will begin in February.
Right. On some of the changes, I was going to get with the clerk because there are some letters that need to go because some of them have to go to BOCC and other people
Yeah.
for their final.
So I just wanted you to know, I went ahead and
Okay.
did that.
Is there a motion confirming these appointments?
So moved.
Second?
A motion and a second by Vice Mayor. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No nays. Thank you, everybody, for your willingness to serve on these. And before we totally leave this topic, I'd like to get with, I'm going to get with the city attorney and figure out the best way. There's some pass-along information, having served on the river board for a long time. And I know you didn't get the benefit of this because it was a lot going on, but I'd like to figure out a way so that we can meet somehow, even if it's just the two of us and we post it as a public meeting, I don't know. But there's some institutional knowledge that I'd like to somehow get to you. So stand by, I'll get with the city attorney.
Okay, thank you.
There's both groups meet next week. And I know the River Board, you know, there's only 3 elected officials, and they always need us, so I don't know if it's going to be Meredith next week or me next week. So we'll have to figure that out.
Well, is that something we can figure out now? Or do I need to get with you guys tomorrow and figure this out?
I'll have to get in touch with the people to see if there need to be appointments made by the BOCC or do they?
I don't know how they,
The river board does not.
We just let them know and that can.
The river board is just whoever Temple Terrace chooses to, whatever elected official.
I'll send you that, because they sent an email out asking who would be on, who's on the call. So I'll send it to you so you can make all that stuff.
When is that meeting, Mr. Chambers? Monday?
It's Monday. And I know our river, the task force meets the following Monday.
Well, there's probably time for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's just here, so, yeah. The other one's important because there, again, there's only 3 elected officials.
Yeah, the river board is, and they only meet quarterly, and what they vote on is crucial. So Pam, I don't want to put you on the spot here. Is there a simple and short answer to how I can meet with Ms. Abel outside of this, or can we post a public meeting, or how do?
If the two of you are going to be discussing something, then it needs to be in a public forum and it needs to be noticed. If you have, say, written information and you just want to give her information and it's a one-way, then you can do that. There can't be back and forth. But if it's just you have institutional knowledge and you want to actually speak with her about it, it needs to be at a noticed public meeting. If the committee was having a meeting and it was a noticed meeting, you could both be at that meeting and talk during that meeting. But if you just want the two of you talking, again, it's going to have to be at, obviously at some other time, but at a noticed public meeting.
How difficult and complicated and expensive is it to post a public meeting so that she and I could meet here? I don't care, it's not secret. People could come if they wanted to hear.
We could notice it and it could be prior to the next council meeting. And you could meet before that or after the meeting, but it would still have to be noticed. And when Cheryl does the regular notice of the meeting, that could be included.
Well, if they meet on Monday, how long does a notice do we have to give the public?
Yeah, I mean, it's not gonna make it probably into the paper, but it can be posted on our website. It can be posted here at City Hall. It has to be a reasonable notice, so.
Okay. How about the 3 of us talk tomorrow and we'll figure
Okay.
this out, and I'll get back to the both of you. Yes, yes, sir, go ahead.
If I could read the email even better, I'd tell you it's on the 25th.
So we have some time.
That's the time. Yeah.
Okay.
Just looked at it.
We will figure this out. Thank you, Mr. Chambers.
Now we all.
We'll figure this out. Okay. Okay, more to come on this. Thank you. City Manager's report. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city manager did ask that I share a couple things with you. The first being the status of the ongoing COVID-19 vaccination process being conducted by the county. And for that, I've asked our fire chief, Ian Kemp, to please come forward and to share an update with us.
Welcome,
Thank you.
Chief. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you and the rest of the council, the mayor, Councilor Ian Kempter, fire chief. As you may be aware, the fire department this week has started vaccines as of yesterday, and will be continuing throughout the week. The police department, along with the dispatchers, will then be asked to go down next week. I was just informed actually this afternoon, late this afternoon, there's a possibility we may be able to get the police officers as well as some dispatchers in Thursday or Friday of this week. So I went through the process today. It was very, very easy. The shot, I didn't even feel it at all. It's been about, I think I received the shot about 10 o'clock this morning. I have not had any ill effects, and as of this time, all the firefighters, I think we've just been lucky, but none of our firefighters at this time have had any symptoms at all for the past 2 days. As you may know, also, the last couple hours ago, the county did state that for the rest of this week, vaccines for 65 and older will not be available for the rest of the week. However, they're anticipating this to change into next week. It's all about supply and demand. As a mayor, I know you've been very integral in staying abreast of what's going on as well, along as with myself. So I know a lot of the information that I'm saying to some of you is probably, you've already received it. But, and of course, we, as everybody knows, we're still in the phase 1 of the vaccine, which is the healthcare providers, the long-term facilities, and 65 and older. We're anticipating that and continued for a few months, and then into the phase 2, which is critical organizations and vulnerable populations, and then phase 3 would be general population, and they're anticipating that would be somewhere around March. You still can, and unfortunately also, I think early on, the phone lines, I think were very busy and clogged. And the email and the registration, I think their website was overwhelmed. They did not, I don't think it was ever set up for that amount of people to log on at the same time, so they had some issues with that. It's my understanding they've worked on a lot of those. They've hired some people or brought people in from other areas to man the phones. So as of now, I believe the registration will begin again next week for 65 and over via either phone and or online registration. So that's where we are right now. Again, we're excited on the public safety aspect to be able to get this as frontline workers, that we get the vaccine as early as we have. If you have any questions, I'll certainly answer what I know.
Questions for Chief Kemp? Just a little add-on to that. I've been in touch with the county several times this week and the fire chief over this. I've tried to keep you as informed as I can, but there's a lot of complaints about the phone line being, you can't get through, the system crashed. Well, just for the public to understand, the county knew full well that this was going to happen. They were getting 2,000 calls a minute when this thing went live. So if you just do a little math, if to answer 2,000 calls a minute, if every one of those calls took even 5 minutes, you'd have to have 10,000 people answering the phone. So it's not possible. So they knew full well that this thing could not, but there's no way to set up a system. I mean, alternately, you could say, well, we'll go around the county, we'll go to South County first, then we'll work our way up to Brandon, and we'll go to North, but now you're delaying the vaccination of people while they wait for Town and Country to come around. So that's not a good option either. So if you just think about the logistics of this, there's really just no good way. I also think it's important the public understand that the doses of the vaccine that the county is receiving is not all the vaccine that's coming into Hillsborough County. The hospitals are receiving the vaccination. Some of the larger doctor groups are receiving the vaccine as well. They're not able to give it to every doctor because they don't have the ability to store it. You have to have the special equipment to store it. So the larger doctor groups are getting it, so there are other avenues for people to get vaccinated. This is a long process. This is going to go on until summer at least. Our initial dose that we got here in Hillsborough County was initially we got 4,000 and it went up to 9,000 I think we got. That's changing all the time. The federal government dictates how much goes to each state, and then the state then dictates how much is divvied up to each county. And so that's, this is not just, this is a logistical nightmare, but it will get done. It will take months and months for this to happen, but it's going to happen. We're getting there. So I just encourage the public to understand, this is not, oh, great, inept government can't even figure out how to man the phone lines. Well, I challenge you to figure out how to man 2,000 calls a minute, right? So everybody just be a little patient. There's light at the end of the tunnel. We're on the home stretch here. This is good. We just have to be patient. And with that, please don't let your guard down. There's a lot of the virus out there right now. Lots and lots and lots of it. Our numbers are really high right now. And this is not a Tampa problem or a Hillsborough problem. This is a Temple Terrace problem also. So please keep your guard up. we're in the home stretch, you know, let's keep doing what we know we have to do, so.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Mayor, and the city manager. You know, I've been in constant contact with the city manager, and he wants the best for the residents and the employees as well. And I know you've been tirelessly talking to your people on the county end, and I'm well aware of that, and I appreciate that as well. Just yesterday, two of our rescues, luckily we had a third in service that day, waited for over an hour at the hospital because they had no beds. So it's, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say it's because of COVID or not because of COVID, but I've never experienced that before here in the 12 years I've been here, where we've had to wait that long for beds, and usually it's a couple other hospitals. So I'm hoping, you know, as people get the vaccine, you know, we're going to see less and less of this. But the county did a great job. They're doing the best job they can. I think they only had so many vaccines. They could have waited another week and had them pile up, but they just made the decision, hey, listen, we're going to try to get them out now is what we have, and that's what they did. And I think my experience with them and working with them has been nothing but professional in regards to this event.
We're good, thank you, Chief. Chief Albono.
Thank you, Chief, for that update. The last thing that I would have is the city manager had planned to provide you guys with a much more detailed update with the CARES Act funding, but what he did ask me to share is that we have received from the U.S. Department of the Treasury confirmation that the end date of the expending period has been extended by the President to December 31st of 2021. We have already been in contact with our counterparts at the county. They are going through the process of deciding how they intend to memorialize this. I would anticipate within the next week or so that we will receive something for us to present to you by way of an agreement, so that would be memorialized between the two of us. But good news is that the funding has been extended, and we will have more time to utilize what has been designated for us.
Very good, thank you, Chief. And now I'm happier than ever that we went back for the second bite at the apple and got the $3 million. So, very good. Questions for Chief Albono? Very good. City Attorney report?
I just wanted to briefly report on the positive result that we received from the appellate court, the second DCA. It was right around Thanksgiving, and we waited for a mandate to come out after that to see whether there was going to be an appeal of that decision. But this was in the Holland case, and this was 10 years in the making. This started off as a code enforcement issue. Ultimately, early last year, we had received this had been in all the appellate courts, basically, in the state, and the city had prevailed. The outside counsel that was representing us at the time then sought attorney's fees on our behalf because it had cost us quite a bit through this appellate process. The court in Tampa awarded us fees, which then we needed to collect. So we ended up foreclosing on a piece of property that was owned, it was other than homestead, that was owned by the property owner, Mr. Holland, and foreclosed on that in order to pay our fees. The judgment that we had gotten for fees was over $100,000. So the property was ordered to be sold by the court, and it was auctioned on the courthouse steps, and it sold, and we were able to collect the fees that we had paid out over those 10 years. Now, the decision of the court then allowing that property to be sold, that was appealed. So that's the one I'm talking about now. So we still weren't done yet. That particular decision of the court was appealed as well. And now the appellate court has issued, they did not write any opinion. They simply affirmed the lower court's decision, which makes it nearly impossible for that to be appealed. So we're just about done, but for that appeal, we again spent about $4,200. And so what we're looking at doing now is seeking, and the appellate court also awarded us, they granted the motion for attorney's fees, and now we need to go back to the trial court level and have that trial court simply determine the amount of fees. We're asking for obviously no more than we paid, and so that's where we are now. So that's 10 years in a nutshell.
Good.
Good job, considering.
Questions for City Attorney? Very good, thank you. A couple of things I want to bring to your attention probably would have fit better in the new business, but I wanted to talk about the board stuff. We have a town hall meeting scheduled. Keep an asterisk by it because Mr. Stevenson is out of town, but we have a town hall meeting tentatively scheduled for Thursday, January 21st from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock at Lightfoot. I think I had kind of alerted you guys that we were shooting for that time frame. The arrangement will be, we will space out chairs kind of like we do in here in Lightfoot, which of course is much bigger than this. So we'll be able to get probably 50 people, which I think is the recommended cap now anyway. We will set a long table up in front like we normally do so that we can space out also. We will take questions, comments. We're trying to establish some protocol for people to be able to email in questions ahead of time and staff to kind of combine them. You know, if 12 people ask about the same thing, we don't need to read 12 questions. We'll kind of put them all so that we make sure that we address everybody's concerns. We don't have the technology in Lightfoot that we have here, so we won't be able to live broadcast it. We can, however, record it so that we can put it on the YouTube channel and people can see it. It won't be live, but it'd be recorded. So that's what we're working on. So if you would keep that on your calendar.
Do we have a topic yet?
We do, well, yes and no. I mean, you know, the town halls, we don't,
Not always,
you
but
know, we try to keep that a lot of time for people to just ask us. I do think it's important, since we haven't had a town hall meeting in so long, my thoughts are, and please feel free to chime in on this. My thoughts are for, not for me to hog it, but for the first 15 or 20 minutes for me to be able to just give a state of this kind of what's going on, because that might answer a lot of questions right there. What's going on with Amazon? What's going on with redevelopment? What's going on with the budget? What's going on with, you know, and if I just had 15 or 20 minutes to just kind of say that stuff, and then each of you had a few minutes, that'd be 40, 45 minutes. Well, but that leaves 45 minutes or more, right? That gives over an hour for then questions, which I think is probably ample
yeah, I think so.
time. But I'm open to, you know, this isn't my meeting, it's our meeting. So if you have a different format or a better way you want to do it, Mr. Sisler.
Well, I kind of agree with the overall state of the city concept. We haven't done that in quite a while.
Haven't done it in a while.
But I think back to my business career, I want to hear from the managers. I want to hear from Mr. Stevenson what his perception of the state of the city is. Where are we? What are we doing? Where are we going? We can sit up there and do it all day long, but these are the workers in the trenches. And my personal thing is I would like to hear from Mr. Stevenson and his executive staff if there's, you know, the various issues. Each one take a couple seconds, couple minutes, give a brief overview, as opposed to us doing it. We can answer questions, but if there's issues that are raised, we're only going to turn around and send it back to him anyway. In that particular, that's my, and again, I'll do what everybody wants to do. I don't have a problem with it, but I just think that the overall state of the city, once we get past the high level stuff that, you know, from you as the mayor, I think the nuts and bolts should come from the city manager. Just my personal opinion. That's all.
Well, that's fine,
That's
except
all.
that I haven't had an opportunity either to address the public, and I'm going to take it.
But that's fine. I don't disagree with that.
You know, they deserve to hear from me too, because, now, I don't mind giving the city manager time to address things, that's fine, but I'm not going to give him I'm not gonna turn that state of the city over to him. I'm gonna do that. And, you know, I think people expect to hear from me too. But and I'm fine with him
Yeah.
and the directors, you know, if there's a question that comes up about the pavement and everything, yeah, I'm not gonna answer that.
If I may.
Ms. Abel, wait, hold on.
I'm good, I'm good.
Okay, Ms. Abel.
I love the idea. I think this is a wonderful idea to give a state of the city, and I think that it's really apt. But it gives me great pause to have 50 or more people in a room together, especially with the positivity rate at 16 or more % at this time. It gives me a little bit of pause about that.
Other council members?
I was going to ask, at what point do we say it's a go or it's not? I mean, if all of a sudden we have a spike, which I understand we've just had, and if it's still that high into January, you know, can you cancel it within, what's the timeline? 24 hours, 48 hours? I don't know. I mean,
Well, we can cancel it 5 minutes before.
Yeah, you have a
well,
disaster.
well,
Yeah.
well, let's hope we don't have to do that. I'm going to a meeting tomorrow that the whole conversation is going to be about if we're going to meet the rest of the year. You know, how are we going to meet, that kind of stuff. Because, you know, everybody was expecting this to all be over, right? And it's not. And, I mean, I think having an opportunity for the citizens to just come and talk to us is a great idea. And so I hope we get to do it. Because there are lots of questions, you know, we all get these questions, you know. Is the city hiring? And you want to say, yeah, but I don't know exactly all the jobs, so let me show you how to get to the website, you know, stuff like that. I'm glad our citizens have lots of questions. I can tell you, I have new neighbors and they're, you know, they don't have the opportunity to just walk over and ask me a question about, let's face it, garbage cans are on everybody's minds right now, right? Stuff like that. So anyway, I mean, I'm willing to go to the town hall meeting. My question was just going to be, what is our threshold? You know, what is the point where the chief and the fire chief say, yeah, you can't do it, not tonight?
Well, we could, I mean, we discussed also doing it entirely virtual, which nothing says we can't do that. But it's a little weird to sit in an empty room and just read emails and answer into the camera. It
Yeah.
just seems kind of weird, but
I agree with you.
you know,
Yeah, I don't think
I
you
don't
get my
know.
question. Yeah.
And the reason that I suggested Lightfoot over here was that we can spread out more. Now, there's, nothing says we can't spread out even more and have fewer than 50. I mean, we could put people 12 feet apart from each other if we're really that worried about it. But, I mean, these same people that are sitting out here are shopping at Publix.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I guess that's a personal decision to make. So.
I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea. We
Well,
should-
we just have to see where we are. That's my only question.
Well,
I'm not saying
there
don't
is
do it.
that, and I don't know what the magic number is or should be, but there is, yeah, I mean, we have to watch it. There's a lot of virus out there.
Yeah.
But,
You can't just, you have to plan it. So plan it, be prepared, and then if we, you know, but we need to be willing to say, okay, look, this,
Oh, yeah.
if
Well,
that happens. Yeah, that's really my only question is what does it take? And I don't know, because what is the new mark for saying
Well,
no?
I don't
You
know.
know, it used to be, what, 15%, was it, or something like that?
That's a sliding thing.
Yeah, I
Let me
know.
tell you, from my months on the EPG, I
Exactly,
can tell you
you're the guy
that's
who sat there and
as
saw
soon as
this.
you start approaching one goal, oh, we got a new goal. I mean, it's a, you know, that's a whole sliding.
Yeah,
You know, if we get below 10%, we're golden. Well, what we should have said was if we get below 5%, we're golden. Well, okay, we're getting close to 5%. Well, we really should be, you know, you're never
when
gonna.
you sat through those meetings, you are more aware of
But,
them than any of us.
but the point is well taken. I mean, if it's raging virus, then yes, we should we should cancel it or not do it. And I'm also, I mean, I'm open to other ideas. If there's another way, a better way. Doing it outside, I just don't know how we could, I don't know
Not in
how,
January.
how to make that practical. But, Mr. Chambers, anything?
No, I was gonna suggest maybe even, can we schedule maybe in February, where we're a few more weeks away from the holiday spike that everybody's expecting?
Nothing says we can't. If you think it'd be wise to put it off for a couple weeks and see where we're going, we could do that too.
Can't hurt.
That might make it more of a sure thing.
I think so, because you got, you've got the exposure, then you have, a week to either get the virus, then you have a couple weeks, so by the end of January, we'll know what the holiday spike would be.
That's true.
We could put it off until we find a date in February, and that would give time for the,
And in the format, I fully endorse your 15 minutes to give the state of the city. I think that's a great idea. I question what we can do after that, what I can add to that as a council member, more so having maybe department heads there that could give a brief state of, an example, leisure services. What's the hours of the library again? What's the hours of the rec center? What are the restrictions? Some things like that, maybe, some general information.
great.
And then we could wrap it up like we normally do.
Right.
At the end of the event.
Well, my thought was, this isn't my meeting, and I'm not trying to turn it into my meeting. I just thought that if I spoke a little bit up front, it might answer some of the questions that people have. But I don't want to be the only one. I want to make sure that you guys have, because I'm not the only one up here. So, if each of you have a few minutes to speak on whatever you choose to. So, and then as the questions come in, I don't intend to jump up and answer all of them. We'll pass that around. I mean, everybody gets the equal opportunity to chime in on these things, so. Okay, so
I agree.
we should hold off until February, find a date in February.
Just don't make it Valentine's Day.
Okay, are there blackout dates in February that you're aware of now? Okay,
I don't think so.
very good. We will look for a date in February and go from there.
Okay.
One last item, I didn't expect that to take so long, so I apologize. We have some of you know this, I know you do because I saw your names on it. We have a sister city in England. Estley, I think is the correct, is it Eastleigh?
Eastleigh.
Eastleigh, is that the correct way to say it? Okay, Eastleigh. As far as I can tell from what the city clerk's been able to dig up in the records, we haven't done much with this relationship since about 2010.
Yeah, and,
That's correct.
yeah, that's about right.
Unless you guys have some heartburn over this, I'm going to try to reestablish contact and kind of rekindle this relationship and,
I'll be glad to go over and,
on your dime.
that's all right.
Well, there's been that. There's been trips back and forth. And I think,
Wish I'd known that 2 years ago.
They used
yeah.
to do that.
yeah, no, there's been, I think the last trip of a council member from here was 2010.
Well, yeah, they came to us.
Yes, I saw that both of you guys were on the host committee. There's a shock, right, that you guys would be involved in that?
Sure.
All I know, I don't know the year, but it was whatever year USF was ranked number 2.
Okay,
A long time
It
ago.
was that weekend.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, very good.
That's
Well,
a
I'll
great idea.
keep you posted on that too then.
I'm guessing there are the same number of people there saying, oh, yeah.
Well, there's probably been the
Yeah.
same turnover there that there's been here, so, but they do still consider us a sister city, though. I looked on their website, so,
Really? Cool.
yep,
And we have citizens here who would be first in line to be on a committee.
Yep.
And I can name them, I know James
yep,
Cantor.
okay. Well, more to come on that then.
Okay, nice idea.
Mr. City Manager,
Mr. Mayor, I realize it's out of protocol, but the code enforcement chair has asked to make an invitation before you dismiss the meeting, if that's okay with you. If not, then I'll let him know no.
okay, sure.
Thank you. Just want to take this opportunity, since we do have a new liaison, Our next code meeting is a week from this coming Wednesday, I believe. Is that right, Cheryl? Before that meeting at 5:30, we are having a workshop, so the timing is good. So I just wanted to invite our new liaison and tell our new member to be there for that workshop. Thank you.
Okay. Is there other business to come before the council tonight? Ladies and gentlemen, city manager, staff? If not, we're adjourned.
Did everyone get one of these, or did it just stop at me?
I didn't get one of those.
What is